Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good people at the Roto Street Journal, paving your way, acting as your lead blocker to fantasy glory, fantasy excellence, fantasy championships. I, of course, am your host, Nat the Truth Jones. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself, and we are going to be doing our Week 12 reaction show post-Thanksgiving, pre-Monday Night Football. Wolf, we're not going to spend too much time on this because we got a 13-minute late start, but I am as mad as I've ever been in the history of my fantasy football career. And I've been playing fantasy football since like the early 90s. So I am so angry. Like the last 4 days of my life have been terrible.
It wouldn't have anything to do with Tony Jones, would it?
It would have everything to do with Tony Jones. Tony Jones Jr., to be exact. Like I'm beyond frustrated. I'm so stupid. I cannot believe that I started that clown. I watched him for like the first series of the game, and I was like, oh, the usage is there. Oh, they're giving him carries. And I forgot to take one thing into consideration. He sucks.
Yep.
It would be like pounding the rock with me. We're going to give Nat the Truth Jones 30 carries. Well, guess what? I'm going to take those 30 carries for like 6 yards.
Well, at least his body held up. If you took 30 carries, I don't know if you survived more than 2 of them. But
no,
yes.
Right. And 6 yards might be generous. I don't know. Depends what kind of line I'm going behind. But It was so terrible. It cost me the win. And I had Christian McCaffrey, who got me 3.5 points. That's a whole different story. I'm much madder about Tony Jones because that was a decision I made because I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
And so now I need Joey Sly to kick like 5 50-yard field goals tonight.
Hey, you never know. Big leg Sly could always happen. No, that sucks, man. And yeah, if I told you a running back was going to get 16 carries and you could plug and play him off the waiver wire, most of the time that's going to work. Like, this is just a new level of suck. He was horrendous. Their line was even worse. I actually don't know if he could be worse than that slug. Never again. He's going to be a very fun hate cut if there's any type of silver lining. What an absolute bag of shit. Thankfully, it didn't ruin my week. I actually got bailed out by none other than the Bengals defense, of all people. Picked them up on Sunday morning. Figured, bad offensive line, good D-line, and the immobile Ben Roethlisberger. I didn't expect 20 points to come out of them, but that saved me. That bailed me out because, honestly, I probably would have lost without them, too. So thank God for the Bengals defense. Who thought I would ever be saying that this year either? Crazy.
It's funny because if I were betting on football this week, like these games, the one game that I considered to be an absolute lock was I thought the Bengals would crush the Steelers. And that ended up happening exactly the way I thought. Of course, I've made no bets on it, so I get nothing for it. I also had a huge defensive performance. I had the Miami Dolphins defense against the hapless Carolina Panthers. And they actually got me like 26 points, but it wasn't enough to recover from the CMC Tony Jones debacle.
That defense has truly turned it around in like a historic fashion. They were one of the laughing stocks of the NFL for the first 5-6 weeks. 3 of the last 4 weeks, they've scored like over 18 fantasy points and have been just unstoppable. Cam Newton, stream of the week, right? Well, we'll talk about him in a sec, but all these players against Miami were must plays for so long. Lamar Jackson on Thursday night, they're shutting everybody down. This team is having a turnaround like crazy.
Remember what? Absolutely. I know you just referenced this. Remember what they did to the Ravens? I mean, they just made them look ridiculously bad. And now the Ravens are what are they, the number 1 team in the AFC right now somehow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Barely snuck by last night.
I don't know what the hell's going on. All right, let's get right into this. We got a barn burner of a Monday night game tonight between the 3-7 Seahawks, I think, and maybe 4-6 Washington football team. I remember a time that I would have been really excited to see that game, but not today. Not today, sir. Anyway.
No, not at all.
We're getting into some monster injuries here. Oh, wait, you're going to Monday Night Football stuff first? Go ahead.
There's nothing really to talk about. Like you said, it's a hideous game. Hopefully we can see the Seahawks turn around. That's the one thing I'm looking for. Russell Wilson gets the easiest matchup a quarterback could have. Literally the most points allowed to QB is the Washington football team. So this will be a pretty telling sign. Like if he can't get it done tonight, and I wouldn't be relying on him. I'm hoping, most of you guys haven't. I think he was my QB 13, 14. Maybe, just maybe, you have to go toss him in there. And this could tell us, this passing game might have some juice the rest of this year, or it could be hideous. The one guy that's out there in a lot of waiver leagues, there's 2 of them actually. The most intriguing to me is DJ Dallas, because right now they're down to just DJ Dallas and Alex Collins. We've seen the Alex Collins experiment. It is hideous. It's awful. He hasn't had more than 5 fantasy points in 3 straight weeks. Maybe DJ Dallas takes this backfield over, or Collins gets hurt. He's been playing through a bunch of injuries. I don't know. That's more so like if you have a Jeff Wilson, like I do, and I just cut him because a lot of leagues will allow you to cut these guys, stash someone at a time. So I think he is viable. And maybe a Gerald Everett I've seen out there in like 80% of leagues. Had an 8-catch day last time out there. Really not a whole lot more. Jarrett Patterson, I guess, would be the backup to Gibson if anything ever happened to him. But those are the kind of the Monday Night Football stashes. I do think it's something, if you have bench trash such as Tony motherfucking Jones, if he's not in your starting lineup and you can get rid of him now, might as well do it ahead of time. See, it gives you a little something to watch for tonight and could end up playing big for you. See what happens.
Before we get into this, and we're going to get into it fast, I just want to put out a real quick hypothetical scenario for you. As far as just what would be the thing that would make me the most angry of anything I could possibly imagine, because that's what I like thinking about in situations like this. I mean, I'm going to hate cut Tony Jones with the most, just the violent passion that comes out of me. I'm going to hate cut that guy the second I can. If Tony Jones runs for like 4 touchdowns next week, that
probably will.
I don't know how he possibly could, because again, he seems like he's like a middle schooler playing professional football. But if that were to happen, that's when I might do something drastic, and I don't know what that would be, but it would probably make the news. Anyway,
go to his house. Yeah,
right. I would at least want to have like a face-to-face conversation with the guy and just really just be like,
yeah.
Right.
All right,
anyway,
Tony. We got to settle on in. Come on in, Tony.
You've ruined my life. All right.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna get into some crucial injuries, several of which affect me, of course, because all injuries affect me. Give us a like. We need it. I need it personally. This is for me. Like, I need some sort of validation from the public. Just be like, hey man, we like you. You're a good guy.
Make it through, baby. You'll make it through.
I know I will, but it's gonna be rough. And all right, injury hell. Let's talk about Christian McCaffrey. Proud member of my fantasy football team that I spent $77 auction dollars on. He is done for the season. He is going to be followed up by the impressive backfield of Chuba Hubbard and Amir Abdullah. He rolled his ankle early in the game, came back briefly in the second quarter. It was nothing, and left with a walking boot. Now he's on the IR and he's out for the year. I will just tell you personally, as far as Chuba, as far as Amir Abdullah, I have no interest at all in Chuba. I absolutely not. I think Carolina's terrible. I think they're not going anywhere. I think the only case you could make for a Carolina running back would be they're going to get down early. They're going to pass out of the backfield. If that happens, and it's a big if, I'm not running out for either of these guys. Abdullah is the target to me.
Yeah, ran 21 routes compared to 4 for Hubbard. Yeah, definitely seems like he would be the more viable option here. But it's a gross committee. That's the one thing. Chuba was okay as a fill-in for a while. He was seeing over 80% of the carries, running some routes, doing some damage in that sense. But even then, he never had a single running back one performance, not a single top 12 game, right, even with all the volume. Now it's a split backfield. Oh, and they get the Bills, the Bucks, and the Saints in the fantasy playoffs. No, thank you. There's no, if you're going to go splurge on the waiver wire this week, it's not for Hubbard. It's for the next guy, and that would be Alexander Madison, because Dalvin Cook is looking at a tough injury, torn labrum, separated shoulder, not considered season-ending.
He looked like he got hit by a car or something on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just cringing. It was
the way he buckled and was banging. It was especially as somebody that has him on my teams. Yeah, it was awful to watch. Good to know he might be back at some point. If I can survive long enough to the fantasy playoffs without him, I should make the playoffs this weekend. Maybe not. But if he's out for as long as he's out, we know Alexander Madison, you know the drill, 20-plus carries in both of his starts without him. Touchdown in one of them, over 100 yards in both. Had another touchdown this last week. And he gets Detroit this week. So if he's out there in a lot of leagues, I have him stashed in a lot of leagues where I don't have Cook. Not really a consolation, though, the fact I lost Cook in my biggest of leagues. Still, though, if he's somehow out there, and he was out there in about 50% of the leagues entering the week, which, again, at this time of the year, what are we doing? Kind of makes you think maybe we go out and get Sony Michel, some of these other – we always talk about cuffing season, right? We'll talk about them tomorrow on our waiver wire show, but we have officially reached it. Alexander Madison's one of those cuffs that should be owned every single week all year long. Very few guys that can say that. So if he's somehow out there in your league, he is worth every single penny, and then your house as well to go get this guy. Will be a smash top 5 running back play against Detroit this week, and top 12 really any week that Cook is out given how productive that zone running scheme and is just a general good offense. So Alexander Madison, a smash play. Then Jamal Williams with DeAndre Swift out. We've seen him in spot starts dating back to last year with Aaron Jones and multiple years with Aaron Jones. Whenever he was out, Williams isn't a sexy play, but gets volume and does fine with it. So catches in that backfield. It's such a highly targeted share to the backfield in that Detroit scheme. I imagine Jamal Williams will have about 5 to 8 catches any given week he's filling in for Swift. There's no word yet quite how long that's going to be, but he's also out there in a ton of leagues. So I would rank by far the backup situation. Madison, league of his own. Jamal Williams, a little bit farther behind. And then, as you mentioned, Chuba Hubbard, I'd rather have Amir Abdullah, who probably will go a little bit more under the radar at that point.
Because we're going to talk about one of the reasons that Chuba Hubbard and the Panthers are just have an absolute zero. He's actually second on our quarterback list, but we're going to talk about him first since we're talking about the Panthers right now. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Cam Newton. Let's talk about, if you want to talk about one of the worst games. All right, so I talk about Tony Jones. That's about the worst football game I've ever seen from a running back, just about. This is literally one of the worst games I've ever seen a professional quarterback play. This Cam Newton game. He went 5 for 21. He got picked off twice. How many yards did he throw for? Like 90?
I think 84.
Okay, 84. He had a 64-yard pass early in the game. Okay, it did not go for a touchdown, but it was a 64-yard pass. And so if you take that pass out, he went 4 for 20 for like 20 yards and 2 picks for in a football game. Like, can you against the Dolphins? He was terrible. Remember, he was like, "I'm back." It's like, no, you're not, dude.
You could just see it. I've seen some pretty funny memes of like the "I'm back." It just looks so much better. Where it's like, "I suck." Like that's literally what it looks like. Him yelling to the camera. That is exactly what happened. Awful, and not even fantasy goodness. Like, he had that one rushing touchdown which got him to like 8 points, but just horrendous. In fact, that was the worst. 5 for 21. No quarterback has done that since, I believe, Joey Harrington. Toss that name back out there.
Oregon Ducks.
Yeah, abysmal with the Lions back in the day. That was the last time a starter has thrown 20 pass attempts and completed less than 6. Awful.
I mean if I said to you the Panthers aren't going to win another game for the rest of the year, you wouldn't be like, truth, you're crazy.
I'd be shocked if they did win one, to be honest.
Okay. Who
are they going to beat? And I know they have the Falcons and they have some bad teams on the schedule, but truly, who could they actually compete with without Christian McCaffrey? I don't know. Cam is abysmal. He's going to be their starter moving forward. They already endorsed him.
What, really? Okay.
Yeah, honestly.
Okay.
Maybe fantasy-wise, like, the rushing upside is still kind of there. So I'm looking at, like, Rodgers bye week next week. If Cam gets cut, it's like between him or Daniel Jones for me. I might go after Cam still just because the rushing upside is there. But, this was hideous. This was abysmal. He is not an NFL quarterback any longer. It was just, I don't know. There's nothing really more to say other than pure shit. And not much better.
Let's go to
Lamar Jackson. No. 4 interceptions and a TD.
And they won.
Yeah, they somehow won that game. I can't believe it.
You know why? Because Baker Mayfield is fucking terrible. Yeah. He's awful.
He'll be on this list too. Not a good performance by him at all. This is kind of an interesting list here. There's very few ups at the quarterback position. A lot of downs this week, including Lamar Jackson. Just abysmal quarterbacking play. You did see 17 carries. That's continuing the trend of the most season high. That was team high this week. He's clearly on pace for the most carries of his career. So that's kind of keeping him somewhat afloat. Still, though, this is just bad. 12 fantasy points from this guy ranked consistently top 3. You got to just recognize the floor is not really high with this one.
Tom Brady, speaking of other guys that were down, and I went against Tom Brady. So, unfortunately, I went against Tom Brady, I went against Leonard Fournette, and I went against Gronk. So it's pretty much if the Bucs were going to score, I was going to hemorrhage points. I did get lucky and have one Ronald Jones touchdown. I don't remember Brady's exact stat line. I angrily turned off the TV at some point and stopped watching it. But I know that he was sub 20 fantasy points again, and that's 3 games in a row. In the first 8 games of the year, he went over 24 6 times. So it was not an impressive fantasy game for him. Of course, there was no doubt in my mind when it came down to it at the end, they were going to beat the Colts, and they did. But fantasy-wise, there's another guy that's down. And Jalen Hurts also, right? Let's talk about Jalen Hurts. Let's talk about more guys that are down.
Exactly. Another multiple interception, just a pathetic day. Ruined CJ, our resident hero, his survivor league. He was one of like 30 teams that started in like a 2,000 people pool, and he picked the Eagles this week. Jalen Hurts ruined that for him. Too bad. Yes, we did get 77 rushing yards. Similar to Lamar Jackson's, like, okay, I guess that buoys the floor a little bit, but another guy that even with 77 rushing yards, similar to Cam, similar to Lamar, still had a sub 12-point fantasy day. And that sucks because all season he's been above. It's the first time he's actually scored single digits all year. He's been above 20 in all but 3 games. The floor has been astronomical all year. His playoff schedule is completely cakewalk. So I think he will rebound okay. But these are the type of games that there still is that chance. One of these games he just gets benched for Gardner Minshew at the half of the game. The team decides we want to see what else is out there. These types of performances are going to make those more likelihood. I had figured he played himself away from that in these recent weeks. If we get another 1 or 2 of these types of games, you might not see him with that juicy playoff schedule. So pretty sketchy indeed.
Well, before we go to Baker Mayfield to round out our just like crap fest of quarterback play this week, let me just ask you this. How bad do you have to throw the football to rush for 77 yards and finish with single-digit fantasy points as a quarterback?
Extra abysmal, as bad as can be, right? Because you're already at 8. You just need 2 passing
You
points.
just literally need to throw for 50 yards.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep. Yeah. Awful.
Baker Mayfield. And Kevin Stefanski has said he will not be benching Baker Mayfield after the team's Week 12 loss to the Ravens, which personally I think is a mistake because I think Case Keenum is better than Baker, at least this version of Baker. I mean, he threw for 247 and a touchdown, but he seemed way worse than that to me. I don't know how you felt about it. He never seemed like he was going to do anything.
The Browns don't have a chance to win when they have this guy like right now. I mean, he is awful. I guess, of course, with a run game, they could always be in it. But, man, yeah, Baker is just awful. He's bad. And he's injured, and that's probably playing a big part into it. But I think in general, he's just not that good. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if they pick up that 5th-year option. I'm sure they will. Why not get one more pretty cheap year out of the guy? But, yeah, he sucks. I don't think he's a real legit NFL quarterback. I would not be surprised to see him out of the league, and it's at least a backup, like Trubisky type of situation. I guess the only riser this week, Josh Allen, and he already was among your top 2 to 3 for the season, but good to see him rebound with 260, 4 TDs. Did throw 2 picks, so still not like the best of performances, but still the QB1 of the week. I don't know. Chat, let us know. Are we missing a QB riser? Because I was making the list. Like, who can we hang our hat on this week as a great fantasy play at quarterback? Was there like truly anybody that quarterback crushed?
Rodgers looked pretty good.
Rodgers did look great, actually. And Stafford on the other side, yeah, he like made some shitty real life throws. Fantasy wise, he ended up getting it done pretty well, right? What did he get to, like 25, 26?
Yeah, he was 20. He was around his average, I would say. But the Rams, I would have also, as far as games that I would have considered locks, I considered Green Bay a lock to beat the Rams. It was actually closer than I thought it would be. And that game was like a pick 'em. It was like a 1-point game, 1-point spread. And I was like, there's no way the Packers aren't going to win this game. All right, give us a like. We're going to move on to running backs. Jonathan Taylor, he's the number 1 running back, obviously. But he has not actually finished outside the top 10 in weekly running back fantasy scoring since week 3. Which is absolutely nuts. Right now, he's RB8 going into this game. So his streak is technically in jeopardy. If whatever paper cutout is running the ball for the Seattle Seahawks does better than him, or Washington, then he could end up possibly not being in the top 10. I don't see it happening. Taylor struggled a little bit, especially in the first half against Tampa Bay. He did pick it up and rush for like 60 yards by himself in a drive like in the fourth quarter, and he did score. Not one of his biggest games, but I think he probably had 15 PPR points, something like that. Not too bad.
Yeah, 83 yards, TD, 4 catches, 14. Playing again right around that like 70% snap share that we've seen him take over this year. It just goes to show, like back-to-back games and bottom 5, quote-unquote, matchups versus the Bills and the Bucs to be top 10 in both of those, including last week, which you get 185, 5 touchdowns. Well, especially with McCaffrey's injury, but he already should have been the number 1 on any rest of season, big boards, rankings, any of that stuff. Clearly locks him in the fact he's doing this. And now he gets the Texans coming up and a playoff schedule that is pretty juicy. Got to love him moving forward. Easy to say. But a guy that I don't think is quite as obvious, but now ranked my number 5 running back on my rest of season big board, Only Joe Mixon, Najee Harris, the aforementioned Jonathan Taylor, and Austin Eckler ahead of this guy. The guy you benched for Tony Jones, Eli Mitchell, is now up in my top 5 running backs rest of the season, top 10 on the rest of the season big board, the biggest leaper overall, just in front of everybody after seeing 27 carries, 32 total touches, 32 of 35 running back touches. That was a 91% share of the backfield touches. He also played 70% of snaps, coming off a broken finger game. So I know there was some skepticism. Can he even use his left hand? Are they going to kind of mask him? He can't catch the ball, right? He did it all, and he did it all better than he's done all year. 133 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Just dripping chunk play after chunk play, churning. Clearly the guy, he has not handled less than 72% of the backfield touches in any of the 7 full games he's played this year. He's locked in, and he now gets the easiest playoff schedule among all running backs. To me, there's no one else other than, again, those top 4 guys I said that I would rather have moving forward rest of the season. He's a monster.
I love Cordero Patterson, by the way. I mean,
he'd be right. He'd be probably him and Mitchell is like a toss-up, I guess. And we'll talk about Patterson in a little bit. But yeah.
I mean, even without CMC, those are my 2 running backs. Like
that's pretty damn good. Yeah,
it's pretty damn good. I'm sure I'll sell one of them for a bag of magic beans or something because I'm a moron. Leonard Fournette. I went against this guy. He's another guy that's probably not too far outside that range. Right 17 carries, 100 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, 0% stuffed rate. Don't know what that means, but it sounds pretty good. 7 receptions, 31 yards, and another touchdown for good measure, just to really cram it up my ass. Great game, Lenny.
Absolutely. And I remember, I think he was my lower running back of the week in our, higher, lower Hail Mary because Ronald Jones is involved in the strike, right? He did vulture a touchdown. Oh, no, he didn't get to 5 TDs. That was just a monster performance. Lenny's been so dominant all year. He should never have been on the lower list. He was in the Millie Macon lineup alongside Joe Mixon, who was the other running back in the Millie Macon lineup with 28 carries, 165 yards, 2 scores. He's now had 2 touchdowns in 4 straight games. Unbelievable performances from this guy. 4 receptions for -2 receiving yards. So not the highlight of his game, but still heavily involved in every aspect. 165 might be a career high rushing if I'm not mistaken.
It is.
Yeah. So he's now gone to running back 4, running back 24, running back 2, 4, 4, running back 2 across his last 6 games. That is insane. Top 4 in 5 of 6 games. And his lowest was the running back 24. So not even like killing you. The best second round pick you could have made in fantasy leagues this year. Unbelievable. And no end to this in sight. The clearest cut every week. You're going to get stats from this guy out of the Bengals. We'll talk about the receivers a little bit more up and down and trickier to figure out. Mixing no questions at all.
Yeah, the receivers are trickier to figure out, but I will say this. This is an inconsistent team, but when they're rolling, the Bengals can beat anybody. They really can. I mean, they have a very good defense, and they have offensive weapons out the ass. They really do.
Yeah.
Cordarrelle Patterson, 16 carries, 108 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, also had 2 catches, 27 receiving yards. The receiving number is a little low for him, but I mean, this guy's like legit running the football like a running back. Like, 7 yards a carry? Come on. That's the most, by the way, that's a career high for him as well.
Yes, 16 carries this week, 64% of the running back load. That's the second highest running share of the season. 23 of his 29 snaps were in the backfield. So he's kind of like the full-time running back at this point. He did run 13 routes as well on 32 dropbacks, so heavily involved as a third down back too. Every single thing you want to see as a usage monster. Just unbelievable. And it's just so telling that they hadn't scored a touchdown in 2 games without him. He comes back and scores 2 himself, and they get back going again. He's real life-wise, like one of the most key cogs to a single offense in the entire NFL. It's insane what he's doing. Similar to Jonathan Taylor, like honestly, like that vital to his offense. Obviously, Taylor's having a bigger impact, but still pretty damn impressive what this guy has done. AJ Dillon, these last few weeks, very impressive what he's done as well. 20 rushes, 69 yards, also 5 catches, 21 in a score, looking like a bull all day. He has now outscored Aaron Jones in each of their last 3 games together. I know this week, like Jones coming off the injury was on a snap count. I get it. But the 2 weeks before that, that wasn't the case. And Dillon's kind of taken over, especially as a receiver here. He's been top 20 running back in 4 straight games. To me, he's an every down. Like you can't question this guy in fantasy anymore, even with Aaron Jones coming back next after the bye. AJ Dillon's the one that I would have less questions about being in my lineup as compared to Aaron Jones moving forward. I think a lot of question marks. He's going to take a pretty big hit on the big board, whereas Dillon will take a nice big rise up on the rest of the season big board.
Eagles running backs plummeting. Eagles stock plummeting in general. Sorry, Denny Jennings. Miles Sanders down. Miles Sanders rushed 9 times for 64 in the Eagles' aforementioned Week 12 loss to the Giants. Boston Scott, 15 rushes for 64 after a Sanders ankle injury, which definitely hurt his workload. He also scored and he lost a fumble. He had 2 catches for 8 yards as well. Neither of these guys ran particularly poorly as far as yards per carry. Scott rushed for a little over 4. Sanders actually was between, in the 7 range as far as rushing. Didn't help, didn't matter. The Eagles could not get anything done. We talked about Jalen Hurts, who actually also had a decent rushing day, but they just could not move the ball through the air, and that was enough for the Giants to be able to knock them off in I want to say defensive battle, but I'm going to say more of just like a horrible offensive battle.
Yeah, that's a much better way to summarize that. Miles Sanders hasn't scored a single touchdown this season in 9 games.
Really?
Just to put that one out there. No Jordan Howard. It seemed like a lock this week, and of course, Boston Scott's the one that gets the goal line work, plunges it in there. I don't. It just sucks. I have Sanders. I've tried and hoped and prayed. It sucks. He gets the Jets next week. Like, I can't put him on my bench for that. But even still, it seems like Boston Scott's locked into the more valuable work here at this point. It blows. It blows. Here's the guy I benched for Tony Jones. I mean, Eli Mitchell was worse than this, but not by much. Javonte Williams, a very solid game. 14 carries, 54 yards, and a score. More impressively, 3 catches for 57 yards, which was a team high 57. We got a little bit of a dinged up Melvin Gordon. He did come back and ended up playing a lot of the game, but all those routes run were a season high here. We did see Melvin Gordon ultimately outcarry Williams 17-14, so it's not like he has completely shaken him. But I'm at the point where Williams is so damn talented. I put up a picture of Bart Simpson at the chalkboard. I will not bench Javonte Williams. I will not bench him. You need that for Eli Mitchell for your self-truth. Like, we will not bench these guys, these talented running backs that see meaningful volume each and every week. Mitchell's certainly more of a lock than Williams, but he is so damn good and the schedule is too damn tasty. I won't be benching him ever again.
Just to be clear, and I know I said this before, I'd never doubted Mitchell's talent. I think he looks great. I was genuinely concerned that he wasn't going to play or he was going to be a scarecrow, and I was just completely wrong. It turns out he's like a seriously very tough guy. That's the
one of the toughest.
The report on him is he's just a real tough guy on top of everything else. So nothing to not like about Eli Mitchell. I mean, I cannot imagine next season that he's not the undisputed RB1, right?
Absolutely. Breaks his hand. The game where he broke his hand, he continued to play, didn't even say anything to his coach about having any pain. And at the end of the game, it's like, oh, yeah, I think I might have hurt my hand a little bit. Gets x-rays, like broken. I fucking love that shit. Like, I know it's messed up. You wouldn't want people to like be playing.
What do you think, Aaron?
But still, I love it.
No, but he's a badass. What do you think Aaron Rodgers would have said if he was hurt like that?
My hand should be amputated at this point. The damage I have done to it. I don't, fucking asshole. The turf toe injury, and then he runs it in like Scott. I love it because the fantasy wise, I'll take the points. But yeah, like he is such a little diva bitch. Ugh. Darrell Henderson, though, another strong game, just a clear indicator. I know he's a little banged up heading into the bye. Back healthy, sees 50 of 62 snaps, 16 of 19 carries, 33 routes and 42 dropbacks. Got 4 targets, a nice healthy 10% share, pretty decent for a running back. Found the end zone. Just a locked-in RB1 each and every week, if and when he's healthy, and it sure looks like he is right now.
All right, let's talk about Myles Gaskins. Dolphins running back committee is just a mess in general. Gaskin did get 16 carries for 49 yards. 43 of those came after contact. Don't get too excited. That's 3 yards a carry. He did score twice, and he had 2 catches, 3 yards on those 2 catches. That's total, not each. And it didn't really – I don't think much of it. They were playing a team that I would hardly even consider an NFL team right now in the Panthers.
Yeah, 100%. It's one of those things when you look at the box score, you'll see a big fantasy day from Gaskin. There's a lot of sketchiness to this one, though, with 15 carries for Lindsey, 13 for Ahmed, 12 for Patrick Laird. What the hell?
So he's carrying the ball like a third of the time.
Right,
and
exactly.
He's getting 3 yards a carry.
Those were actually snap shares, rather. 37 for Gaskin, 15, 13, 12. But we did see 6, 3. It was just a mess. Only 48% of the running back share went to Gaskin this week, 6% of the targets after he had 3 straight weeks of 83 or more percent of the running back rush share. So just as good as the box score looked, definitely some underlying concerns here. If they just randomly decide, let's put in Lindsey at the stripe, and he ends up scoring the 2 touchdowns, it would be a disaster of a game for him. So he bailed you guys out, but definitely important to note there. The Patriots backfield definitely becoming a bit of a nightmare here, given that Harris played 55%, saw 55% of the rush share, Stevenson, 45% of the rush share, Bolden, 12% of the target share, whereas the other 2 were at 3% or lower. Just the classic dreaded Patriots 3-headed committee that we've come to know and hate as fantasy owners. Real life wise, I love it. They're playing bully ball. They're smashing people in the mouth. But it's one of those things where it's pretty clear, like once they're in for the drive, unless it's third down, Bolden will come in. Harris will get all those snaps. So if he gets the goal line touches there, great. He did score one. Then the next drive, Stevenson's in all the way. Maybe he'll plow it in, but it's not like it's like a clear cut. I know this guy's getting the touchdowns and this guy's not. It's a nightmare mess of a committee. So those guys have to rank. As talented as they are, as good as this offense is, ranking them inside the top 25 moving forward is going to be tough to do.
I refuse to let us spend more than like 20 seconds on this next one. Jets running backs post Michael Carter. 3 guys split up the backfield carries. Tevin Coleman, about half the snaps. Austin Walter, who JJ Zachariason says is definitely a person. And Ty Johnson, 19%. By the way, when I was like bashfully talking about my options other than Tony Jones, I was like Tevin Coleman. You were like, ooh, Tevin Coleman. You should do Ty Johnson if you're going to do a Jets person. It's like, yeah. Now I didn't do either of them, so I have no moral high ground. But Ty Johnson not to play on any planet last week. Don't touch the Jets backfield. You'll just hate yourself for it the next day.
Yeah, there's nothing redeeming about any of these guys. Again, Austin Walter. He kept popping up on my red zone. He scored the touchdown, and I was like, who? It's fucking, yeah. A lot of questions about Ty Johnson going into the week, and thankfully we said to avoid him for most of those questions. But, yeah, pretty gross, pretty hideous indeed. Dontrell Hilliard, this last backfield we want to break down is the Titans, given that it was a pretty impressive showing from all these guys. Hilliard, the most impressive, especially with that long touchdown run. He racked up 131 yards on 12 carries. The first 100-yard rusher, I believe New England's allowed all year, did also score that long touchdown. Only 1 catch. That was kind of the surprise there. It's the receiving back. Foreman, if I'm not mistaken, also approached 100 yards. It was almost a near even split with 32 snaps for Hilliard, 31 for Foreman, and both of them had pretty solid days. Looking at the complete breakdown, 35% of the running share went to Hilliard, 55% to Foreman, 9% of the target share went to Hilliard, 4% to Foreman. So a pretty near even split, but they got it done. When this offense is lacking weapons, they seem to turn most of the volume over to the running backs, and they performed pretty well. So both of those guys, Hilliard out there in a lot of waiver wires still. Foreman got dropped in a lot of leagues. Worth looking for on your waiver wire to see if those guys are out there.
Give us a like. Give us some love. We need it, especially me. We're going into wide receivers. And I remember you had been talking about, you were like, I think I'm missing an injury. Debo Samuel is who you're missing. 6 carries, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's to go along with 1 catch for 12 yards. What the hell is going on with this guy? He's a running back that averages 11 yards a carry all of a sudden.
Unbelievable.
I mean, good for him.
Absolutely.
What a badass.
He should be Alvin Kamara. Like, I wonder, I think he's a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not this year, but the one after that. I would love to see a team turn him into an Alvin Kamara light. The 49ers kind of are now here down the stretch. As you mentioned, the groin injury, we wonder what will happen.
He's a great receiver. He is a great receiver.
Absolutely.
Like, he also just happens to be able to average 10 yards a clip on the ground.
Right. 20 rushing attempts across his last 3. You'd hope that continues on, but he did avoid that major injury. He's going to probably miss, quote unquote, a little time. So moving forward, that obviously boosts up Brandon Ayuk, boosts up, George Kittle moving forward. But yeah, very solid game indeed. Jalen Waddle just continues to absolutely roll. 9 catches, 137 yards, career high so far. Another touchdown. Picked up a run where he hit over 21 miles per hour. Was the 4th fastest of the entire season among all players. There's one player who has 2 such runs on that list. Who would be your guess, Nat?
Tyreek?
No.
Really?
He might be number 1 on 1 run, but there's one guy that has 2 and 3.
Who else is crazy fast? Tony Jones?
And this one, it actually is surprising to me. Jonathan Taylor has 2 and 3 on the list for the fastest runs in the NFL so far.
That's interesting. I don't usually think of him as like a breakaway guy, although I guess he's got it. But I mean, he's awesome at everything, so why not?
Once he gets chugging, yeah, unbelievable. But that's not to take away from Jalen Waddle, who's ripping through the defense deep on short, seeing again double-digit targets almost every week. He's kind of like Deontay Johnson light, but now ascending as a talent. I mean, looking at your dynasty big boards and rankings, this guy has to be considered probably the best rookie receiver in this class at this point. Unbelievable. Love Jalen Waddle and everything he's doing this year.
All right, we found out Elijah Moore is not Zach Wilson proof. Unfortunately, he was targeted 8 times. He caught 4 balls for 46 yards. That's right around the stat line we would expect him to put up with Zach Wilson. Unfortunately, because the guy's a real talent. But, what can you do? Yeah,
35% target share, but doesn't matter. When it's coming from Zach Wilson, it just doesn't matter. No Corey Davis, it doesn't matter. Sucks because the guy was, again, the wide receiver 1 across the last 4 weeks. The best receiver in fantasy coming into this week, to me, was a surefire lock in lineups. And I guess he didn't kill you, but certainly didn't help anybody win this week either, which just blows. Someone who did, though, is Adam Thielen. 62 yards, 2 touchdowns on 5 catches. Just solid. Just a solid reminder this guy remains one of the elite touchdown scorers at the wide receiver position here. He has 3 touchdowns across the last 2 games. Very solid. Very solid guy that, as just Kirk Cousins locks into when they get into the red zone, gets Detroit coming up this next week to continue to roll.
Adam Thielen is so unsexy, but man, he's productive.
Just gets
T. Higgins, we've been waiting for this for a while. He gets this big target share. It just seems like he should have produced a lot more than he has. He had 6 catches for $114 and a touchdown. Everyone was eating against the Steelers, except the other guy who you expect to eat, which is Jamar Chase. Did pretty much nothing. He was targeted 3 times. That was only 39 yards, no scores, nothing like that. Now, his PPR points over his last 4 games, 10.5. Over his first 7 games, 20.9. So literally half of what he was getting the first 7 games. A lot of people have said, I've heard this, and even a lot of people on our show have commented and said, there's no way he's going to keep this up. And I guess that's probably true. I mean, he had just very, very lofty numbers. Tough to keep that up for anybody, especially since Higgins had kind of been down for no real reason. Seems like they're starting to even out a little bit. I expect Chase to still bust back a little bit, but I don't expect to see him scoring 21 a game.
Right, exactly. Higgins all season has been getting better usage, just performing below expectation, whereas Jamar Chase, he'd been performing 9 points above on average, what you'd expect given the typical usage based on our good old friend Jackson Barrett, one of my favorite writers we have there, one of my favorite articles to read, the expected fantasy points. Higgins has been outscoring him in expected fantasy points all year. Yeah. Chase was just that productive, and he is that talented that he'll still have some of these blow-ups. But when he doesn't have that long bomb touchdown, it really hurts. And this was one that really kicked you in the balls. I had Chase and Higgins in a league, and guess which one I played? Of course, I played Jamar Chase. I scored that. I think I texted you that roster.
Yeah, you sent me the screenshot. That was incredible.
43 fantasy points. And you go down the list. Cam Newton was like a top 10 quarterback in most people's rankings this week. Jamar Chase, Michael Pittman.
CMC.
Top 15. Number 1 running back player of the week. CMC paired up with good old Tony Jones. Fucking asshole.
Yeah, Darren Waller. That was my running back pair as well.
Darren Waller probably ranked in the top 3 tight ends all week. Elijah Moore, the wide receiver 1 coming into the last 4 weeks. 43 fantasy fucking points.
And you weren't even like last week, not this week that we just had, but last week I was going into it and I was like, I'm going to score like 70 points. Like my team's decimated. I'm missing like 9 players. So when it happened, I wasn't shocked. Your team, you were probably like, I'm going to score like 130 points.
I had finally gained some momentum, some traction in my league. Everybody was pretty healthy. And this is what the boys come out with. Fucking hated it. Oh, I hate that. That's my college buddies league. It is a bit, it's just awful. That you always get to one of those leagues every year where it's just like, fuck, I can't do anything right. And that was one where everything seemed to be going right finally. And then they deliver that. Awful. Just awful.
Personally, I like it when I get all that out of the way, though, in 1 week. I'd rather have everybody on my team bomb than like have 2 guys bomb and, be like, oh, either because then hopefully they'll all have something to prove next week.
Yeah, good thing they all got injured.
Right, except CMC, who will never play again.
Darren Waller, and they're all down now. Yay.
post Robert Woods, let's talk about the Rams wide receivers. Cooper Kupp,
very intriguing.
Just a quiet Cooper Kupp-ish 7 catch for 96 yards game. Just kind of creeps along and gets 17 PPR points. OBJ was targeted 10 times, caught 5 of them, 81 yards, and one of them was a long touchdown, like 50 yards. So that was interesting. He had a 25.6% target share. Not too bad. Van Jefferson targeted 9 times, only caught 3, but one of them was a really long one, like 70 yards, something like that. I don't remember if it was for a touchdown or not, but he had 3 for 93 in the Rams' loss to the Packers.
Yeah, just nice, even distribution. Really, the big story to me is OBJ is back. That deep bomb from Stafford. He was running wide open. Still has all the talent in the world. 19.1 PPR points, the highest that he has done since week 4 of 2020. So good to see the guy back. Good to see that he still has that separation ability to burn the entire defense. Another guy that has that ability and just continues to roll week in and week out, that's Darnell Mooney. 5 catches on 8 targets, 123 yards, the second of his career. But it really is helping him to have Andy Dalton, someone that could throw the ball. What a shock. I know Andy Dalton's nothing special, but damn, having an actual QB is not hurting him. Obviously, Robinson being out has not hurt it as well. But Mooney, clear cut, I think every week, top 25 receiver play, even when Robinson comes back. I think the only issue would be if Fields is back, then Robinson's back in a tough matchup. Then we might have to reconsider. But the schedule is pretty soft moving forward. I love Mooney. You got to have him in your top 20 receivers moving forward, in my opinion.
Jarvis Landry was targeted 8 times, caught 6 of them for 111 yards. That's a pretty good stat line, especially since we talked about just how bad Baker Mayfield looked in general. Donovan Peoples-Jones was less than 100%, and Baker spent most of the night looking for Landry, and that was why these numbers happened, I suppose, right?
Yeah, and you see 3 explosive plays according to PFF. That's not typically Landry's calling card. Certainly while he's been hurt, not his calling card. So good to see that he has a couple of those in his back pocket coming off the bye now. We'll see how he rebounds in future weeks, but nice to see that nice 100-yard day for Landry. Dante Johnson, just want to reemphasize 13 targets or more in 6 of his last 8 games. That's crazy. 75% of the time he's going to see 13 or more targets. He's only had 2 games without 10 or more on the season. He has also seen 12 or more dating back to last year in, I think it's 19 of 26 games. That is just insanity, the volume this guy has. 30% or higher target share. He's the only person to now hit that 6 times on the year alongside Deontay. So it's Deontay Johnson, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, and weirdly, DJ Moore, who has not turned it into a ton of actual production. Those other 3, though, I mean, that's where Deontay Johnson's ranking in volume. Pretty damn impressive.
Let's talk about 2 guys that used to be studs and now are not. Courtland Sutton and Mike Williams. Mike Williams, I've been the beneficiary of that. Here's his PPR finishes over his last 6 games. 73rd, 78th, 46th, 45th, 10th, 44th. So one time in his last 6 games, he's been better than the 44th best wide receiver. Once. And that was that game just last week where he caught a big play at the very end of the game. So he would have been right in this category again. I mean, he's borderline benchable, you would have to say. I don't have any better options, so I can't. When Courtland Sutton has not had Jerry Jeudy this year, 16.9 PPR points a game. With Jerry Jeudy, 4 PPR points a game. That is benchable. That is benchable.
He better be on benches. He should have been on benches long ago. Yeah, you can't play Sutton. And really, Williams should be benched, I guess, if you really have no other options. But yeah, tough to ever play that guy. I think they can both be benched for Kendrick Bourne. And this is kind of crazy. And the reason I wanted to put him on here, we got a lot of sit-start questions about him on Sunday. Me and CJ did. We kind of laughed, and I didn't mean to scoff or be condescending, but we're like, Kendrick Bourne, why are we even thinking about this guy? And then after the show, we pulled up before he even had the big day. We're like, oh, he's actually been kind of good. He, had a couple blow-ups and he's had a decent floor. And then boom, he obviously has 2 touchdowns. And all the people that ask us questions are probably like, fuck you, assholes, for being so fucking pretentious when we talk about Kendrick Bourne. But yeah, out there in almost all your leagues and a 2-touchdown day. Mac Jones loves this guy in the red zone. He's making great contested catches just as a Pats fan watching the guy do some work. He's a great addition. Belichick loved him. He went out and got him, and he's using him to the fullest, just kind of like Belichick always does. Matt Judon on defense, and the Belichick coach, the Belichick GM. I just want to have this guy on here to talk about how awesome the Patriots are for just a quick second. They're the fucking tits, and I'm loving it right now. let's keep this rolling in New England, baby.
Yeah, it's almost 8. We got to hustle. Desean Jackson caught 3 out of his 4 targets for 102 yards and a score, and the Vegas 36-33 win over the Cowboys. The one that he scored on, it really seemed like he was maybe going to do something stupid again as he was running into the end zone. He was like 8-10 yards out. He kind of started slowing down doing this. I was like, oh my God, he's going to like fall out of bounds or he's going to drop the ball. He didn't. He scored. But it's like, man, nothing is ever easy with this dude.
It's nobody. He has to have like the record for the worst near the goal line type of antics of any player that's ever existed.
Probably.
I don't think too many people had him going in fantasy, maybe in DraftKings and things like that on the Thursday slate. So hopefully that didn't cause anybody else heart attacks. But yeah, that was awful. And last but least, let's very much emphasize how bad this guy is. 33 yards for Laviska Shenault. Everybody's gotten hurt at this point. Everybody, ETN, and then Shark, Agnew, who's like fucking Agnew. The fact that Laviska's not beating out Agnew in the first place was insane. Okay, everyone's gone, right? Oh, who's going to score? Tavon Austin, first touchdown in like 4 years. Laviska Shenault, I don't know why anyone's still hanging on this dream. He's 40% rostered, which just blows my mind. He should not be owned anywhere.
People love this guy in the preseason. I never understood it. Yeah. I never understood liking anybody on the Jags, to be honest. But like, yeah, he's who I thought he was.
He played fewer snaps than Laquan Treadwell, who hasn't like
there you go.
been on. Yeah, exactly. What else do you need to know? Let's get on to tight ends. We have a few names, as you said. We're going to be right to 8 o'clock. We've got about 50 questions. Love that, Wolfpack. Get those thumbs up in there. And anybody new here that might not have done so already, please get that subscription in if you like what you're hearing. We're getting towards that 2K goal. Would love to hit it by the end of the year, guys. Yeah. Thank you again so much for being here. We will get to all those questions. Let's get to over 50. Here we go, Wolfpack. Let's wrap
Dawson it up. Knox. He got targeted 3 times. He only had 32 yards. He caught all of those, but he had 2 scores. So, I mean, that's a great tight end game.
Oh, yeah. Monster, 16 points. Here's my Kelsey fill-in. I love him to death. I'm going to be rolling out that double tight end flex situation moving forward. The fact is, too, like he was about a 50% snap share player last year. He's been on it all but like 2 snaps a game now. He's kind of taken over. It's now that he's back, Cole Beasley's been relegated to just about nothing. Similar to Emmanuel Sanders. The reason why? Dawson Knox being back, baby. He's a stud. Rob Gronk, another stud. Just looking like he is as good as he's ever been in his prime. 7 catches on 10 targets, 123 yards. Monstrous performance. And this is following up, 6 catches for 71 yards. He's been a top 5 tight end every single week that he's played more than 8 snaps. He had that one game where he played it and it back flared up and then he was out. But he's getting it done in the red zone. He's getting it done now all over the field. To me, he's looking like maybe the most valuable player on that entire offense. Like, yeah, they have all those receivers and they're all great, but they really do hum at a different level when they have Rob Gronkowski in there. Love everything about this guy.
Jack Doyle, a guy we've had some history with at the RSJ, the Beanstalk himself, with kind of a fluky game, targeted 7 times, caught 6 of them, 81 yards and a touchdown, which is a nice play, the one he scored on. He has been targeted at least 5 times in each of the past 3 games, so he's clearly their top tight end pass catcher for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, Pat Freiermuth as well, another guy with Eric Ebron on the IR. The 3 games he hasn't had Eric Ebron for, it's been top 10 in all of them, top 3 in 2 of those 3. Lowest target share of the season, 10.3%. Really nothing until the last couple drives, but ultimately hauled in another beautiful score. Just you see the guy oozing with talent. An awesome player. Love to see it.
Kyle Pitts, since week 7, he's averaged over 6 targets a game and a 22% target share, which is pretty damn good. Interestingly enough, in that span, he has not been a top 10 tight end once.
Pathetic.
What's going on?
At this point, you don't get it done. It kept being like, okay, so he's drawing number 1 covers from these really good defenses. We can forgive it, and we'll get to him. When you go 2 of 6 for 26 yards against the Jags, it's done. The pitch show, at some point, he looked so good on a couple of those games this year. That's like, okay, I see the talent. I know the future. It should be bright with this guy, but it's not like that dominant, Florida best prospect we've ever seen, Omega unicorn that no one. It's not it. It's not it anymore. Stop holding out hope, folks. And Hunter Henry, they were all limited in practice, but he was the one that hauled in 3 catches, 49 yards. Jonnu Smith, that is, had that in, whereas Henry went backwards for 2 catches and 16 yards. I don't want to sit here and say that like Henry's officially low number 10 on this team, locked in for a touchdown a week. Jonnu Smith taking over the target share, the yardage share. Maybe it was a revenge game against his old team, but just a concerning trend and knocks Henry out of that every week you must start type of territory. I think that's everything, Nat. Yep, that's everything we got here. If you think we missed a riser or faller, please let us know in your comments. Otherwise, it is time for...
It's time for the mailbag, and we're going to have to fly if we're going to try to get to kickoff. I mean, let's face it, none of you guys care about this game that's coming up, but we're still going to do our best.
There's not the urgency because it's not like Thursday night where, the whole fantasy week's ahead of us. There's probably not too many sit-start questions about tonight. We will certainly look for them.
We're still going to do our best to finish pretty close to kickoff. New Life wants to know, what do you think of Chuba rest of the season and the playoffs? I said this earlier, and first of all, I want to just qualify any answer I give with, like, it's debatable whether you should be listening to me on anything. But what do you think of Chuba the rest of the season? I don't like him at all. I don't like anything that the Panthers have going on. In CMC's absence, Chuba was never particularly great, and I don't see that changing now. What do you think, Wolf?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't that great, even though he's playing about 70% of the snaps and seeing 80% of the backfield work. Now we see Amir Abdullah play 27 snaps compared to 11 for Chuba. Ran way more routes, 21 routes to 4 for Chuba, and they get a tough schedule. Bills, Bucks, and Saints, all bottom 5 matchups for the fantasy playoffs. I think he's going to be fool's gold. I think anyone that's going out there sprinting to spend their money on him, obviously, if Madison's out there, far better investment. But I think Abdullah will probably go cheaper, and it's probably the better investment, even though I don't really love either of them. I'd rather also have Jamal Williams myself.
Agree. Giuseppe, for next week, have Rodgers on bye. Would you guys go Heineke versus Vegas or Tua versus the Giants? Trying to get Taysom first, but if someone else gets him before me, who do you like more?
Well, is Taysom going to start? If so, then obviously, of course, it's Taysom. But I don't know. Taysom hasn't.
I have not heard he's starting. Although, to be fair, I can't believe they're not starting.
They just paid him a $45 million extension.
And Trevor Siemian is worse than Cam Newton.
And somehow he hasn't stepped on the field in 2 weeks. Taysom Hill. He gets this huge extension and doesn't see the field. I don't get it. When are you going to play the guy if not now? I don't know. So I hope it's Taysom. I hope he's playing. I could sure use it. I need a fantasy QB1 for Rodgers as well, Giuseppe. If I had these two options, look at me. I think Tua's been playing some good ball. So is Miami. Giants are not. I know what they just did to Jalen Hurts, but as a whole, they have not been a good defense. I'd go for Tua here over Heineke. What do you think?
I agree.
Yeah,
definitely. Denny, up 29. My opponent has Washington defense. You should be okay. Although, I mean, you certainly should be okay. Although there have been a couple games recently, including one I was in last week, where the defense I went against did score at 29, 30 points.
Yeah, so, I got 20 out of the Bengals the other day, but 29 I
got 26 out of the Dolphins.
Yeah, even still, though, I mean, Washington's pretty bad.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
You're fine, Denny. I'll give you a 99.999% chance.
Mike Schneider, what's up, guys? My redraft team is close to being in the playoffs. I need Lockett to not have a good game, and I'll be tied for the last spot. I have a 16-point lead. You should win, but, who the hell knows when all of a sudden, like, Tyler Lockett's going to have a 3-touchdown game. It seems less and less likely with every game that goes by for Seattle. You're not out of the woods, but I like where you're at.
Yeah, 16 points is certainly not, I would not lock this in. I'd put this close to 50-50. Given that Lockett, even with Russ sucking last week, he still had over 100 yards. That's a little sketchy, and Washington has given the most points to wide receivers. Yeah, Lockett had the big day. DK's really disappeared. But, man, I love to hear this, Mike. I know you've been tuning in, often coming with your I'm 0-4. You had a shitty start. So to hear that you've turned this thing around and now you're itching into the playoffs, the cream does rise up, baby. You always had a pretty good roster. Every time you message me, I was like, I can't believe you're losing with that type of team. It's good to see that things are finally starting to pan out for you. Let's get this final spot in there, baby, and go for the title. Those are the teams that I feel like it's always the teams that squeak in after like a hard-fought year. Like it same with the NFL, fantasy-wise, for whatever reason, those fantasy rosters that have been battle-tested and they've come together and rallied, they tend to always just go to the top. So I'm hoping that's the case for you, Schneider.
The last time I won the title in my hometown league, it's the one I care by far the most about. I had on paper, very similar to this year, on paper, I had what I considered to be the best team, but I found myself 4-6, and I had to win out to make the playoffs. I did win out 7-6, and then I ran the tables in the playoffs and won.
Fucking yeah, exactly. Right. The team gets hot, and it just carries over. I don't know why, fantasy-wise. It makes no sense because they're all
doesn't make no sense.
Teams, but it's happening. It happens. It does.
Big Lenny, 4 TD net. That hurts Denny.
There you go. Denny Jennings just rubbing Nat's face in it. I kind of like
David says, I need Lockett, Gibson, and Myers to put up less than 15 points to win. Yeah, you're probably going to lose.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's tough. I think Gibson alone is going to put up 15, and the rest of that crew ain't too bad either.
Robert says, when my kicker, Nick Folk, was my highest scoring player this week, my players, I guess, all decided to go binge drinking together the night before. That's a tough break. I will say, just kind of as an aside, Nick Folk has been lights out.
He had 23, so I mean, that's not that bad for him to be your highest scorer. My highest scorer in my 43-point team had 7. No, I had nobody hit 10.
That's insane.
Nobody scored a touchdown. I don't even want to think about it anymore. It makes me sick.
Seamus. Hey, the best show of the week. Guess who won again? I'm going to guess it was you, Seamus, because you always freaking win. I've secured both number 1 seeds in my league. Thanks for the articles. If I support, gentlemen, you're the best. The Devo of Row Street. This guy is like, there's no such thing as a sure thing, but he's pretty damn close.
Absolutely. When's the Devo going to be like the real, like every week? He needs a segment. He's better than any of us at fantasy. He needs to become, I need to just fire myself and hire him to take over Roto Street. Nobody does better than Seamus in fantasy. I love the Devo of Roto Street. What a legendary name. We need him to take over full time. We actually do need like a weekly Seamus segment.
I'd love to have Seamus on.
As electric of a fantasy player he is, he's that much more electric of a human being. So we need some awesome Seamus here. It's been a while since we've got some good Seamus, but think about it. Number 1 seed's locked up, and we still have 3 weeks to go
in both leagues.
In 2 leagues,
and it's not even like playoffs. Like I'm fighting for the playoffs. He's like already like, yeah.
I have my buys. Yeah,
I'm number 1 in both leagues. I'm just gonna like kick it and just dance.
Oh man,
3 weeks.
Exactly.
Charlie Prebs, I need 5 points. So should I play DJ over Collins? If you're gonna play one of them, you probably should.
I think he's a little safer than I don't know. Collins is the guarantee for like 10 carries. So
I hate them both.
I don't know. If you get PPR points, Prebs, then I think it is DJ. But I do know, if I'm not mistaken, you're in standard league. So I think Collins is the better bet if you're in a standard league. So yeah, I would probably go DJ if you're getting PPR though.
You can come for dishes, Daniel says.
What's that mean?
I don't know.
All righty. I'll be there for the dishes, baby.
I'll be there, bud. Do you think playing both Elliott and Pollard this Thursday would be wise since we don't know how they plan on splitting playing time? I keep hearing Elliott say he's fine and he practiced today. What do you think?
Oh, man, there's the rumblings that they might rest him and let Pollard just kind of take over for a couple weeks and let Elliott get fully healthy. I hope to hell they do that because Pollard is so damn good. Every time like he touches it versus Zeke, it's night and day right now. Zeke is definitely banged up. It's tough to play them both, but it would have worked for you this last week. They both found the end zone. So yeah, I mean, it's viable. The Saints are a good run D, so I'd ideally not have to do that. Let's just hope they rest Elliott and you get a surefire locked in RB1.
David says, just to let you guys know, I went into an hour-long discussion about whether Foreigner is a legendary band on Thanksgiving with the wife's family. Wow, did me saying they aren't legendary land me in hot water with the father-in-law? I am glad that we were able to send you down that rabbit hole. My wife and I discussed it after the show because she was the one who said they were, and I said they weren't. I was like, just so you know, everybody on the show agrees with me. So
yeah,
she's already not a very big fan of the show, so probably likes us even less now. But yeah, that's good. Thanks for letting us know. That's hilarious.
By the end of the season, David Campanile is going to be divorced because of this Foreigner debate. Father-in-law will not allow him to ever return to the family outings. Foreigner sparking all this. I love it. That's fantastic.
That's what I'm doing. What I do best, ruining it for everyone.
Yeah.
Eat powder. I feel like this stream is group therapy. Wow, what a week. Yeah, no shit.
I love it. People come here to vent their concerns or sing their praises. So, obviously positive reinforcement, just as good as the negative reinforcement. But I feel like we get a whole lot more of the, I fucking hate this player. I hate you for recommending him, all that. And it's all good. Get it all out there. Grieve
yeah,
it.
These guys are usually pretty nice to us.
We do have some of the best fans out there. So I am with you though, Eat Powder. There's nothing, you should never hold your fantasy vengeance inside. Come to the chat. Have us put you on air if you really want to. We got to remember the wine line. That was a great little thing we used to do. We should get the wine line going again.
Well, we're more popular now. It'd probably catch on a little better.
I think we could definitely get some more people hitting that. Yeah, maybe the end of the season we'll rip the wine line again. That was great.
Midnight 201 using my waiver wire on Boston Scott. Jets give up the most points to running backs. Not a terrible move.
I think he should be. He was my number one waiver claim last week, and all he did was score 15 points. Looked very solid, and if he's still somehow out there, yeah, against the Jets, no brainer, lock him in.
Who should I trade T. Higgins and Jacobs for? I need a flex spot. That's a tough one to answer. I mean,
random questions like that, go on over to the site. We have a trade value chart.
Yeah, that's true.
Kind of give you some numbers. rest of season schedule, buy low, sell high type of thing we have on the site. Lots of good advice there. And that's two pretty good pieces. So I would be saying you're looking for like a high-end wide receiver 2 or high-end running back 2. Like Jacobs is kind of a mid-grade, and so is Higgins. So I don't know if you're going to get an elite guy like Eckler or anything of that nature. No. But, maybe you get Eli Mitchell. Something of that nature could be a potential play.
Ben Thompson was the best man at my buddy's wedding, and my fantasy team was apparently drunker than I was. They put up 36 points Sunday with Gibson and Thomas tonight. Man. It's worse than you, Wolf.
He still has a couple players who probably will beat the 43 that I mustered. But, yeah, that's tough, Ben. We were wondering where you were. CJ had such good lighting yesterday. I was just waiting to see Ben rave about his glowing face, and we missed you. We missed you for sure. But I'm glad you had a best man. Congrats. How did the speech go? Let us know I'm sure you crushed it, but let us know how everything went.
If I had to give a best man speech after the Tony Jones game, it would have been real ugly. Eat Patter. You guys being Pats fans, what's that outlook in the backfield? I just want to be clear, Eat Patter. Us guys are not Pats fans.
I'm a diehard.
Dipshit over there is a Pats fan.
Huge diehard day one Pats fan. It's as we talked about when we were going through the stats, 55% went to the carries, went to Harris, 45% went to Ramondre. I don't see that really changing. 13% target share going to Bolden. I wish like Ramondre could carve out the receiving role or something where we knew that they each had a clear-cut role, but no, not the case. So it's going to be ugly. There's going to be weeks where both of them score. There's going to be weeks where both of them do nothing, like this last week. It sucks. It's could be so valuable because we've seen it be so valuable when one or the other is out. Unless one of them gets hurt, it's going to be a tough thing week to week, in my opinion.
Danny Hurts has a sore ankle, may not play next week. We'll find out more Wednesday. Also, Rager sucks. Yup.
Well, there we go. So even more devastation there. And sorry, CJ, for the survivor pool. Indeed.
Mac Jones had a decent game. Yeah, he did have a decent game.
We did ask for any QB risers, and it's good. That's true. Jones did have a good one. Certainly real life-wise, he's been soaring through the roof. Fantasy-wise, he still is a little bit sketched to me. But, yeah, definitely a bit of a riser.
Maybe Dak is a riser. His tools coming back, less of a strength in the run game with Zeke hobbled. Yeah, I would say at the very least he wasn't a faller.
Yeah, to do what he had over 20 fantasy points without Cooper or Lamb. That's pretty impressive. Yeah, I think that's a really good call to Eat Powder. I appreciate you guys waking us. We started the week very negative. I was thinking about Tony Jones, and it was like, fuck this all. Let's talk about who sucks. Let's talk about everything that sucks in the world. So this is nice to get some good risers mentioned in the comments here.
Most likely going to lose this matchup thanks to Lamar. Or Wilson will score more than 21 fantasy points tonight. Yeah.
I don't think that's a lock. He had like 12 and 13 the last 2 weeks. Like, if this was the Russell of old, I'd say you're fucked and there's no chance. But the last 2 weeks, Russell's looked horrendous. So, grind, I would give you at 50-50, like at worst. I think you could probably say 60-40 you win if it's only 21 for Russ. Again, he hasn't done that in a very long time.
This is not Russell Wilson 4 years ago or something.
No.
Yeah. Mitchell. Okay, cool.
Huge riser.
Yeah. Mahmoud, would you blow a number 2 waiver on the Bills D looking ahead to the playoffs? I can use a flex and a tight end.
No, I would not waive the number 2.
I probably wouldn't, dude.
No, never on defense. It's always so hit or miss. I mean, the Bills had like the Jets that didn't even do that great a few weeks ago. I don't think a defense is ever worth the number 2. Again, guys, that thumbs up button. Keep helping us grow. Would be so appreciated. Thanks again.
Mike Clay says starting Ayuk over Mitchell was a killer. I lost by 11. I would have won by 4. Yeah, try starting Tony Jones over him, Mike.
Yeah, because Ayuk didn't even have that bad of a day. It just, Mitchell was that good. So starting Tony Jones was brutal. Man, that's tough. But it was so tough to know what was going to happen with Mitchell. But yeah, I mean, damn. Mitchell's, you can never bench him again. Nobody can ever bench him again.
No, never. Grind, don't stop. How's it going? Truth, I feel your pain such a down week. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, brutal.
Joe Mixon had the best day, in my opinion, over Waddle. He was an absolute monster. Mixon was amazing. I mean, maybe best game. I would say Lenny Fournette's probably the guy that I would
single
say
game. Yeah, Fournette had the most. Yeah, Fournette had the most points of anybody.
Right.
But yeah, Mixon.
I could see saying Mixon was the most impressive. I could see that.
Yeah, just as a sheer runner, unbelievable.
Goddard or Knox?
Knox all day. Knox all day. Says
that truth. I think it's time to drop Emmanuel Sanders. I'm absolutely considering it. I don't think that's crazy. It all depends what you could get for him on our waiver wire in our league. I'm not sure there's anybody as good as Manny Sanders, but I can totally understand you considering it.
I think you got to send the locker room a message at this point too. Like this guy was once a starter, and this is what happens to once starters who have disappeared because Dawson Knox is whipping that thing around. Like, yeah, get rid of him. No need for it. Even if there's nobody that great out there, drop him. Get rid of him.
You guys were right about Ingram over Higbee. They both suck. Thank God I have Kelsey coming back. Yeah, I think we nailed that one.
Yeah, exactly. They're both going to suck, but Ingram will probably have.
We said he'll suck a little bit less.
Yeah, exactly.
Wolf, Scott actually did pretty well. I was wondering why he was favored more than Sanders. I think it was probably due to the injury, if we're being honest.
Yeah, a little bit dinged up for Sanders, but also the coaching staff just seems to hate Sanders, and they love Scott. That fumble could change things. That fumble cost him in the end of the game. But I have no concrete answer. There was nothing. I was looking, trust me, as a Sanders owner, I was trying to read the post-game pressers and find any type of nugget, like what's going on there. Scott gets those money touches. Sanders did play over half the snaps, but it's the between the 20s purgatory, whereas we're getting the touchdowns and the receptions going to Scott. That hurts. That really hurts.
Gary W. Scary Terry goes ham tonight. Good evening, boys. Well done again tonight. As always, cheers. Thanks, Gary.
Thanks for being here, Gary. We really appreciate it.
Johnny Lau, happy Monday, Wolf and Truth. Who's a better stash for Jonathan Taylor in his week 14 bye? Chuba, Dontrell Hilliard, Tevin Coleman. Slim pickings in my league. Thanks.
That is slim. I mean, I don't know the matchups off the top of my head. I really like what I saw out of Hilliard, though. I think he's going to always have about half the snaps and a solid role there. Seems like Chuba should be the shoe-in obvious one, but like we've talked about multiple times, I don't think he's nearly the lock that a lot of people might make him out to be. I like Hilliard of this list. What do you think, Truth?
I agree, but it's really just because I don't like anyone on the list, and I probably like him the most out of a bad bunch.
Yeah, I would need to see Johnny. Like, I don't know the matchups off the top of my head. I haven't done that'd be pretty damn crazy to have my week 13 rankings out before week 12 is even wrapped up. You know how the deal is. Wednesday show is my ranking show, so I'll have more info for you there.
Eat powder. Actually, Brady was much more of a diva than Rodgers. I worked that golf, the match. Both were there. Can't stand either. Go Raiders. Okay.
That's kind of badass. You worked the golf match that both those guys were there?
I know. What were you doing?
Are you? Yeah, exactly. Are you caddy? Like, what's your role there? That's unbelievable, Eat Powder.
Yeah, cool.
I want to kind of know. I kind of want to know more. I want to like call you and hear more about like what they were acting like and why was Brady more of a diva? Because I always think of Brady way less of a diva than Rodgers, and even you as like a Truth, like I obviously am biased with Brady, but I imagine you have a different like. Who do you think is more of a diva, Rodgers or Brady?
I think they're both divas. I think it kind of comes out in different ways for both of them. I mean, I think that Brady is clearly a diva, but he's also super cool and just kind of like it's hard to explain. There's just kind of an aura about him. You remember when Rodgers chugged that beer at the basketball game, and it took forever. Yeah, and then Brady was like on a talk show or something like a week later, and he put one down in like a second.
Exactly.
Right. So it's like Brady's a diva. Like, I mean, he's like rich beyond belief. He's married to a supermodel, blah, 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 blah. But he can really walk the walk. And Rodgers just sometimes just comes off as such a
I think it's a pretentious pick. But yeah, hey, it's good to know from like the inside how they treat people that are actually, you know, like in the real world and not just on the football field type of thing.
I mean, I'll put it this way. Neither one of them are like regular people, like at all. Like, I mean, how could you be when you anyway? Grind don't stop. Wouldn't start any Jet players at this point, especially with Zach Wilson starting. Yeah,
as good as Eli Moore is, I'm with you. It's such a hideous performance.
Gary W. playing a Jets running back's like banging your buddy's girlfriend. It's exciting, but gets you punched in the face out the game.
I hate to say it too, but it's like you're kind of like, why was I doing this in the first place? Like it wasn't like an enticing one.
You know it's a bad idea. You know it's a bad idea. You're in there. You're in bed with her. It's like you're just like, I know this is a mistake. Next thing you know, you're just getting your face punched in.
Exactly. Yeah, never a good idea.
Grind don't stop. Wolf. Hey, what about Van? I love the 79-yard bomb.
Oh yeah,
if you're starting Van, that's what you're looking for.
Exactly. I do. I will say though, I like what I saw from Odell a whole lot more than Van. It seems to me like it's clearly going to be Kupp, Odell, then Van, but. I think even still, as a 3, that's where he's been at his best all year. So I don't hate that at all.
Tunes, like and subscribe. I need 10.4 from Gibson. You should be okay, Tunes, and you're right. Like and subscribe, everybody.
Appreciate that, Tunes. And yeah, I think you get that from Gibson, no doubt. Second most
Grind
points.
Don't Stop. Tony Jones should not be relevant after that performance. Absolutely disgusting. He won't be. Grind Don't Stop, but I will remember that guy until the day I die, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Sorry about the Tony Jones call. It was such a bomb. It was the biggest bomb.
Not on
I've
you,
ever
Brian.
laid.
No, that was me and Truth.
No.
Back
I'm not putting that on you at all, bud. Seriously, I blame myself and I blame the Wolf secondary, but I blame myself the most.
Yeah, exactly.
Lamar has to be more efficient rest of the season. Yup.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Said Van almost saved me with that 2 touchdown. Unfortunately, it was out of bounds. Oh, was that the pass from Cooper Kupp?
Yes.
Nice
Well,
pass.
I think so, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Which was sweet. That is a sweet play.
It was.
But yeah, Van does look good. I like that involvement indeed.
Who disappointed the most in you guys' lineup? Not named Tony. CMC probably.
Yeah, CMC definitely in my Holy Cross league. Tony Jones was by far the biggest disappointment. But I had Waller going in a lot of leagues, and injuries are injuries, but still it sucks. Like, very disappointing to see that on Thanksgiving.
I hate after Johnny says, I hate how my question becomes irrelevant after your recap. LOL. Love you, massholes. Cheers. Nope. And don't worry about it, dude.
I love it. No, that's great.
We like getting the questions.
I think it's good to sometimes people will bring up talking points that we may not have hit. Usually we're pretty thorough, as you guys can see. We hit, I think, most. But if we miss something, it's really good to have those questions. So no apologies needed. Like, that's
909 Orbits. Yeah. Guess who started Cam? I know the Wolf did.
I sure did. 909, I need you to come on. You didn't come this week and tell me who you were starting. You need to tell me, because he is the curse of all QBs. We have streamed the wrong QB together far too many times now, and I need you to warn me. Brutal.
Grind don't stop. There's no way Judy should be scoring 4 points. It was actually Sutton that's scoring 4 points.
Well, Judy did this week,
too.
I
talked about Sutton averaging 4 points with Judy, and you're right. Grind don't stop. He shouldn't.
Yeah, he's too damn talented. I can't wait till Aaron Rodgers goes there and lights that offense on fire.
He also says, Kyle Pitts, come on, man. Yep.
Yeah, seriously. Absolutely.
Tune said, I shot a buck with my new bow Saturday, had the baby shower Sunday. Now I just have to win in my big money league for the trifecta. Let's go, Gibson. I'm pulling for you 100%.
Tunes with a big weekend. I love it, man. Great stuff. And congrats on the baby shower. I wish I could have been there with you, but as you know, Sundays are tough stuff, Tunes, but I really appreciate you inviting me. I got to get that book to you and a gift over there. But yeah, you're the man, Tunes. Love that you had a great weekend, and let's get you that W tonight. Good stuff, Tunes.
Daniel Martinez, I got Pitts and Goddard. Really disappointed. Should I drop Goddard and pick up Thomas here to see how he does tonight?
They both fucking suck. I mean, you could. You really could. I think we're a little late on here. The kickoff's already happened.
Yeah, so we're definitely late.
I don't know if you missed this. This is like of course, the one question that actually involved tonight happened 20 minutes too late, unfortunately. But I think that's somewhat justifiable. I would have seen if you could have dropped somebody else, but yeah, I think so.
Grindles have decided to stash Logan Thomas rest of the season. Thoughts? Well, we just talked about that.
Absolutely worth a stash. I mean, the guy was a top 7 tight end coming into the season for a reason. All the other tight ends there are banged up. It's an offense that has typically flown, Ron Rivera loves the tight end position. So yeah, I like that indeed.
Toon says Gasecki is a faller in his eyes. Yep.
It's a fair one to bring up. Definitely another disappointing effort. Certainly with Adam Shaheen out, he should have gotten even more run, but no.
Robert Moreno, Taysom is supposed to start. According to Yahoo Sports, he's taking first-team reps. He should be.
I will be going all in to get him this week then, Moreno. Yeah, that's going to be my guy. I'll be bidding all the waiver wires. I have like $5 left. They're going to Taysom.
Mike Clay says, I have to dodge Terry getting 15+. Let's go.
That's sketchy. He's been, I think, though, it's kind of either like locked in or locked out. I don't think he's going to teeter around there. He either goes like 25 and he's going to just smother you and you're not going to have to really worry about it, or he's going to get like 3. So I don't know if you'll be sweating too much, but it's going to go one way or the other. We'll find out, Mike. I hope it works out for you.
Ward Willis, Saquon Barkley has been ranked within top 5 for 2 years and has been useless. He really has been.
Just a reminder, every year we're all tantalized by the thighs and the usage in that rookie season, and it never really pans out.
E. Patterson is my bad truth. I'm assuming that's because you said I was a Patriots fan. It's okay. I am from Massachusetts. I am associated with a lot of Patriots fans, but I personally am not one. Common mistake. It's okay.
Apparently look like Gronk. I still don't see it, but it is what it is.
Ben Tomzik, I actually had to make the speech after playing Tony Jones. Ouch.
God.
DJ's self-esteem must be low after not being told how beautiful he was this week. Speech went fantastic. I had a bunch of people coming up to me telling me I crushed it. Good job, buddy.
Love to hear that, Ben. I'm glad you were able to hold your composure even after a Tony Jones nightmare, because that's something I might ruin a wedding over, how bad that was. And CJ has been crushed. I haven't heard from him all day, probably because he's just in a hole, just buried because he didn't hear how beautiful he was from you. So if you have his number, he could really use the positive words from you, Ben.
Speaking of Denny Jennings, shots of Jägermeister and Christmas tree shopping do not mix. Jägermeister going into the trash, wife not happy.
Oh, no. Go to the trash after it's emptied, I hope. But no, they do not mix well, indeed.
What does Jägermeister mix well with? Not much.
No, very few things. I haven't had it in years, but I feel like whenever we meet Denny Jennings is going to be the first time I have Jägermeister in like 20 years. And I can't wait.
If I meet up with Denny, I'll have some Jägermeister.
What world do you imagine having Jägermeister before you go Christmas tree shopping goes well? That's why I love you. I think you're an absolute legend for comments and actions of this nature, Denny. But that's a clear cut. This isn't going to go well. I'm glad you still tried. Yeah, I love it.
Denny Jennings, Howard cannot get back fast enough. Sanders doesn't seem right. Once again, Sirianni sucks the big D.
Back to choking on it, indeed.
Eat Powder says he's a bartender at the 13th and Moonlight Base in Montana. Cool. Hence my title, Eat Powder. I'm a ski bum and a fantasy football junkie. That's awesome, man.
Living a good life there, Eat Powder. Hell yeah, man. I've always wanted to get out.
Check you out. I've never been to Montana. It's one of the places I'd really love to go. If I happen to come to Montana, I know it's a big state though. It's like Massachusetts. It's like, oh, I'm Massachusetts. It means I'm like 2 hours away from you at the most. Montana, it's like, hey, I'm in Montana. It's like, great, you're 16 hours away from where I am.
We've got to go find the 13th and Moonlight Basin though. That would be sweet. I've always wanted to go there.
Road trip. That'd be awesome. Seriously.
Absolutely.
Ward Willis, I need Metcalf to tank tonight. Well, there's been some precedent for that and score 3 points or less. Chances of that, I'd say low, but not impossible.
No, indeed. Yeah, that's and that's very low. But yeah, these last couple of weeks, I mean, certainly possible.
Midnight 201. I low-key want my Washington football team to tank.
Yeah. I mean, you want the draft position at this point. They're probably not making the playoffs. So yeah, I see that.
Grind Don't Stop says, Truth, where are you for the Sunday morning show? Well, usually I'm around, but I have a couple kids and they play sports. And so a lot of times I'm like at a soccer game or at a basketball game or something like that. I don't live in the same town as the Wolf. We both live in Massachusetts, but so we can't get together in person for that. But I would love to eventually become a fixture on that show as well. I'm just slowly, my tentacles are just kind of spreading out, taking over.
Get on in there, yeah. Although as Ben probably would note too, it might crush CJ's already pretty devastated self-esteem if he took over the Sunday morning show. That's one of his few chances to show that beautiful face off. So,
I thought you were going to say it would crush his self-esteem if the three of us did it together, just sandwiched between these two amazing looking guys and fantastic.
Would not help self-esteem at all either. No, that would certainly be a boost, a big hit down for that.
Wolf, my girl wants to know if you can make an RSJ onesie baby t-shirt.
We've talked about doing that, actually. I think baby line would be unreal. I have so many cousins and my family, my sister having
RSJ pacifiers. Right?
Yeah, exactly. We need some RSJ baby gear, Kyle Tunes. It's been in the talks for a while, so definitely. Ward Willis with a legendary super chat to end the
8:30. We're 10 minutes over, and the guy's throwing us $5. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Love to see it, Ward. We really appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for the support.
Mike says, I started Cam and versed the Diggs Allen stack, but I still have a lead. Pulling for you, bud.
Damn, here we go, Schneider. Take that thing down. I love that your season's finally turned around.
Ben Tomzik, I'll slide in CJ's DMs tonight on Instagram. Any old planners live shows this year? Imagine it's tough with COVID.
It is, but I've actually talked to Ben over there from Old Planners, and he's open to it. I think maybe for the fantasy playoff kickoff. I've gotten that. A lot of people actually have been asking, like, are you going to do one this year? The people want it, which is great. You love to see that. You're like the fifth person this exact week. Because I see a lot of people on Thanksgiving. I think 5 to 7 different people asked me about the show. So we got to get it going, Ben. And I probably met you at one of them. Sure. Now I would definitely want to meet you if I haven't officially met you yet. So hell yeah.
Could I come make an appearance?
Truth, it'd be legendary.
Live shows at the end of the year.
Yeah. We'll get it.
Legendary.
I'll talk to Ben, and so that way you have a few weeks to plan it out. And we can kind of see what works well for your schedule. But they said any Sunday, so let's fucking do it.
Grind don't stop. Jefferson or Chase rest of the season?
Jefferson for me. That target share is more secure, similar talents. It's just I feel like he's much less of a risk to disappear.
I think Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins sucks. I don't know. We'll see. Eat Powder says we're always welcome. Thank you, man. That's awesome. I really might take you up on it sometime. Seriously.
I can't wait to meet some of the Wolfpack every now. Like that's going to make it all. That's going to be the best part of all this is finally meeting all you guys someday. But Wolfpack,
anybody that's still with us right now, the fact that there's 14 people still here watching us, and we're like 15
talking about nothing in the comments, right?
Thank you.
Exactly. You guys are the legends. We love you so much. On your way out, if you haven't already hit that thumbs up button, please do so. If you haven't subbed, please do so as well. Help us get to that 2K goal. You guys are always the best. You can find all our content at roaststreetjournal.com. I'll be updating our rest of the season big board. I know a lot of the trades are already over, but it is cool to see things like Eli Mitchell being in my top 10 overall at this point, things of that nature. Check it all out to see all those rises, falls, trade value charts from Jackson, all that good stuff. Because in a world full of fancy sheep, we'll help you be that wolf. Later, guys.
Later.
We love you too, Mike Schneider.